Welcome to Brightly Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul driven advice and topics to help you live more brightly in your mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself inch by inch.
Hi, Amy.
Hey, Tracy.
Oh, so we've talked about so much lately.
We have.
Big
I
thing.
mean, I guess maybe we always talk about big things, but it's felt bigger lately.
Well,
It's
the last episode on prosperity, we made this connection that it was like 30 episodes building up to it. And like that's the end state, right? And I feel like today's topic is like how to be able to do that, right? Like, and maintain.
well, I mean, gosh, how to be able to do it, or maybe how to have like the wherewithal within you.
In a state.
Yes, to be in that state.
I don't know why I'm being so elusive. If you've clicked this, the title is energy. So how energy to have a prosperous life. I don't know why I was being all like, ooh, it's a hush hush secret. We have a description in the show notes. So thank you for listening. Thank you for clicking. We're going to talk about energy, right?
And I think that people maybe poo-poo the idea of energy being important. And I mean, energy is a lot of different things, right? It's when like growing up, energy was what, your parents had to pay the light bill and the heat bill, and that was energy. And then it was like, I feel energetic, but with no real knowledge around what that meant.
Right? Like energy is also something that's so disproportionately allocated to people, and it works in such differing ways in how you generate it, maintain it, lose it.
Yeah.
I mean, what works for you might not work for me.
Yeah. So obviously, this is not an all-encompassing show. It's more like Energy Light 101. Energy Light. But of course, I always start with the Google machine because I like to see like what people are looking up. I just like to see what people are looking up on the topics that we do.
Have you ever played that game where you just type like the first 3 words of a sentence into Google and then see like the top 10 things, like how to, and then what people are looking for?
Yeah. I love it. You can go down such a deep hole with Google. But so I loved sort of the scientific explanation of what energy was. So it says energy is a conserved quantity. The law of conservation of energy states that energy can be converted in form, but not created or destroyed. So that, of course, we're talking about in scientific terms. Like, even that though is sort of cool because when you think about it, even when people like think they've destroyed something, they've just converted the form. So that's cool. So the other explanation is that energy is the capacity to do work. I think we all can relate to that, but that's actually a scientific term, the capacity to do work. So I found this one example. It's called potential energy to kinetic energy. So I was like, potential energy, kinetic energy. I mean, I understand what those words mean, but it was like, what are they talking about? So they gave this explanation, a book. You've got a book and it's just laying on a table. That book has potential energy. If you shove it off the table as it's falling, it has kinetic energy. Once it lands, it's back to potential energy.
Ooh.
So I just like to think that as I'm laying on the couch, I'm not lazy. I just have potential energy.
Potential energy. I'm using that.
Right?
I'm just not kinetic at the moment. Give me some time.
My capacity to work is a little low right now. I'm just potential energy. It hasn't converted to kinetic yet.
Well, and I think, outside of the scientific understanding of energy, I think a lot of people equate energy to how tired they feel.
Yeah.
To me, I have been exhausted, but involved in certain things or emergencies or whatever, and still had so much energy, right? Like I haven't slept in 2 days, but I still have the energy and I keep going. And then there are other times where I wake up from a 4 hour nap and I lay on my couch gathering my potential energy.
You know
right?
what? That is such, because that just actually brought back to mind me being so tired and thinking I'm going to fall asleep right away. And I get into bed and then it just, I can literally feel the energy like around me. And it's just like, so, and coming from me. So even though I'm tired, I'm still filled with all this energy.
Or how many times have you just, on the way home from an exhausting work day or event or something, and you're like, you know what, I'm clearing my calendar, I'm not going to do anything. And then you get home and you have the second wind, right? Like,
Yeah.
just taking on the world again, but in a new environment. Like, you
Yeah.
do not have the energy to continue with the last task you were doing, but this new task has
That is so
really
interesting. I wish I would have thought about second wind, because that's such an interesting energetic phenomenon that happens to human beings. And is it because we're viewing this new task as something desirable, and that's why we get the second wind?
Maybe. I think it comes down to like, we tend to think of energy as a human experience, and you just illustrated that science is like everything has energy, right? It's whatever state it's in at the time.
Right.
So I think that can help as reflect on your own energy and where it draws from and how you activate
Right.
it. I mean, it just said you don't create it. So what is
Well, and that's in scientific, that's like physical, right? That's like physical energy. Now, I'm not a scientist, clearly, but then we can get into subtle energy, which is different. So, yes, everything has energy, everything has a vibration. The other thing with energy is that it has information. And so that's why, even though everything is energetic, and you actually, if you saw things at their, microscopic to the billionth degree, you would see the space around the molecules and that it's moving. And so there are, of course, you've heard this, like that's why you could, if your brain was in the right spot, actually like walk through a wall, because it's not solid. It's molecules and there is space between the molecules.
Yeah.
However, those molecules have information. So the molecules of my table, the information that they have is that we're a table. I'm a cup, you're a table. I'm, a car. Like
Well,
every
yeah, I think again, I'm also not a scientist, but it's kind of the thought that like the cup is not sitting on the table. It's
right,
actually technically like hovering above the table, right? Like
right,
the energy,
right.
like it's not on it. And it's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
interesting, because what we're perceiving day to day is, this very 3D world
exactly.
that
It's
seems,
that physical
very well
energy.
defined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
so as human beings, we have subtle energy as well. So not only do we think we're solid and we've got molecules and stuff like that, we also have the subtle energies. And those are, think of like life force energy, chi, prana, your chakras, that's your subtle energy. Your auric field. I have this magnificent book from name drop, my friend Cindy Dale, who's written many books, but this
Follow
one,
her on Instagram.
yeah. The Subtle Body, an encyclopedia of your energetic anatomy. It's amazing. It's just, it has everything you'd ever want to know about subtle energy in it. So,
and that might be based or where Kundalini comes from or where but so in Kundalini yoga, they have the 10 bodies. And then there's one of those is the subtle body. They have like this.
Oh yeah. And this is like, this says this, right. So right. The title is the subtle body because of all the subtle energy. But, and I guess my whole point with that is that we are more than just cells and blood and organs and brain and heart, right?
Yeah, there's a spark, right? There's something that whole is greater than the sum. Wait, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. So when we're talking about energy, it's not just like, oh, I feel this way, or I feel this way because this thing happened. There are many things that feed into our energy and our energetic aura.
So when you came up with the idea for this, when we were talking about it, you said you had 2 questions for me, but you didn't say what they were.
Oh yeah.
What are the 2 questions?
Yeah. The 2 questions are, do you think your energy is finite?
No.
That's the first. Okay.
What's the second question?
Yeah. How is your energy level now?
Before we started our pre-show prep several hours ago, it would have been a very different answer from when you answered the Zoom call.
Wow.
So there's a distinct shift. I'm not going to call it a second wind because I wasn't exhausted, but my energy grows when I'm spending time with other people. There's an exchange. And there are some people that I interact with that I feel like drain my energy.
Okay. Yep.
And so for me, energy, I haven't quite learned how to protect it. Like there's certain, spiritualists out there and things like that, like the Hicks, Esther and her husband, Mr. Hicks.
He died.
Yes, but so they
Jerry.
talk about
his name was Jerry.
Jerry, yeah. Thank you. They talk about how to protect, right? Your energy and things like that. And so that's something that I still need to learn. In the meantime, I've just learned what to avoid, what to engage in, what, I kind of pay attention to what helps. But yeah, when you shared earlier, there was something with your mom where she felt energy was finite, or she was told.
Oh, she didn't think energy was finite. No. She thought, she was told by her doctor. She was in hospice, just to be clear. She was in hospice, and she was probably in the 4th or 5th. She was in the 5th month of hospice, and she died a little bit after 6 months of hospice. So, because of the kind of person my mom was, and believe me, my mom believed in, energetic fields and the aura and chakras. And so for her, of course, she didn't think that energy was finite. Unfortunately, because she was, and this is a term in hospice, actively dying, you are losing energy because your life force actually is draining away. But what would happen is she would, basically be like, I need to get up and use this and walk around and build my strength in my legs. And I need to do this. And finally, we had a meeting with all of the, representatives of hospice. And the doctor said, let's say you have a cup of energy a day. Do you want to spend 3/4 of that cup exercising? Or do you want to spend that talking with your daughters, or, doing this other, talking with friends? So
I understand where he's equating energy with physical health. I understand that concept, but to me, on like a much broader scale, I think it's different when you look at the body like a machine and understand that it has a lifespan. and that things are shutting down, and that when you do things, it takes away from other things, right? So like, but I also feel like people's energy is impacted by what you allow them to do, what you tell them they can and can't do.
Agreed.
Whether or not they feel like, there's a lot of people who would rather use that cup doing the stuff that makes them feel alive, makes them feel good, and not put that label of finite or it might go away, right? And so I get what he was trying to say, that, you know, you're nearing end of life. Our bodies have a shelf life, as much as we don't like to think about it. But to me, energy, you generate it. So you can't create it, you know, according to the scientists. There's a certain amount in the world, but I feel like your own personal energy, how you exude it, how you use it, I feel like it's something you generate. And that
I agree 100%. I think sure, the energy, the scientific energy that we're talking about, that's different than our subtle energy, our life force energy, right? I differentiate between those two.
Yeah, so when it comes to me for the subtle energies, mind, body, and soul are connected. And so each of your activities and routines and what you do or don't do, what you engage in, can influence your energy, your ability to generate, regenerate, maintain, hold on to all of that. But as you shared in a prior episode, like, you chose your attitude, and that choosing of your attitude had a direct correlation to your energy in your day. Not just your experience of your day, but your physiological experience, right?
Right. So not only did it change, so making a choice with my attitude clearly changed my attitude. And then it was like a domino effect for everything else. Like even right now, I have no pain. There's no pain. Now, granted, I'm still wearing the boot, but there's no pain. So in my foot, if you haven't listened to episode 32, that's where we talked about this.
So, I mean, you know, we talked about prosperity, the word itself, and the act of being prosperous is having its own energy.
Yeah.
And I think there are energetic words, right? So there's what we talk about ourselves, how we label ourselves, the labels we accept, how other people talk about us, how we talk about the world. I think has a direct correlation to your ability to generate your energy and your day. Now, there are going to be times when, like, that mind, body, soul, one of them is so out of whack that it's not enough just to change how you think, right? It's not enough just to eat healthy. Like, there are going to be times in our life, our bodies are, you know, we have physiological responses to our environment. So don't be too hard on yourself if that's what you're experiencing. This is kind of best case scenario. You're starting at a level playing field at the beginning of the day, choices you're making, or maybe you're trying to improve your life, choices you can start incorporating so that you get to that point where you can influence and generate your energy.
Yeah. I want to talk more about energetic words, or words having energy, and something that I know that we've talked about before is that the things that we speak and the things that we think about have energy,
are you talking about Dr. Emoto from the What the Bleep Do We Know, where he looked microscopically at water, and some of the water he spoke nicely to, and some of it he shouted terrible things to, and it changed how the crystal.
Yes, Tracy, I am.
I was prepared with his name this time. I had a feeling it was coming.
But this is something that I actually, I also want to talk about something else that my mom did before she was ill. Is she would, when like she was eating something that she wasn't supposed to, she goes, "Oh, I just bless it." I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I just bless it, and then I think it's going to be fine." I'm like, "I love it. I'm using that."
Amen. Hallelujah. But that's also the equivalent of sticking your head in the sand and not making the proper choices, right? So it's one of those mindset versus physiological responses that you get.
But I think, but the funny thing is that's in that book, E2, those experiments that I talked about in the manifesting episode, is one of the experiments is don't change anything about the way you're eating. Just say good things about your food and bless your food and see what happens.
There are, who is it? The medical medium, talks about blessing water, just like envisioning a white light going into it, and then you drink it and like you're absorbing that white light. So I don't know, there've been studies, none that I can quote, but it's around like strength and perseverance. And like there's certain tests like muscle testing where, someone can say, put your arm out and hold it as stiff and straight as you can. And then don't let me weigh down on it. And inevitably with a certain amount of force, your arm is going to go down. Now, then they tell people do that same thing, but envision your arm is like a fire hose, right? Like you just picture and imagine all this water rushing through you, or picture that you are a tree, picture that you're a wood, whatever. And it's a lot harder for people to push on it. You suddenly have this strength and this steadiness that you didn't before. So there is like this visualization piece to it that I feel like can change like what you're bringing into your body, right? Like there are no bad foods. Foods don't have morality. I talk about that all the time. But also like there's not necessarily healthy and unhealthy foods. It's about, are you giving your body the nutrition it needs? Right. So can I eat onion rings? Absolutely. And I'm gonna. Can I only eat onion rings? I really shouldn't. Like if not gonna eat a balanced diet.
No, yeah, I get that. But so for me, what it made me think about though was like people have been doing that for centuries, praying before they eat. That is blessing the food, right? So this is like, you think energy work is like something new? No. You did it when you were a kid, and maybe some are still doing it. My niece and nephew, they say a blessing before a meal. And I love that. I just always forget to do it.
And how many of the blessings are thanking for what it has and may this nourish our bodies?
Yeah.
Right. Like you're just saying that out loud. Like,
yes, exactly. So, I mean, I think that that's great, but I also think, so another thing with the energetic words, like wouldn't it be interesting? Like, the, scientist who did the experiment with the water and the words and saying things and shouting things. And I believe some of his students as well did it with like writing the words on the bottles. So what if as a fun experiment, we like took Post-it notes and wrote beautiful, loving words on, I don't know, our computers or our scale or like our closet door, or I don't know, like think of all the possibilities. You put it in your car.
And you know why
your water.
Like in the framework of that experience, that would work because we are primarily made of water. And so it's us seeing it. It's not that it's in the computer. It's not that it's in the mirror. It's not like you're surrounding yourself with it. It's that when you read it, when you say it aloud, you are putting that inside.
Well, that's why people do put messages up on their bathroom mirror. But then it also made me think of tattoos. Like, oh, we should be like, if you're going to do a tattoo, please do a beautiful, something lovely and beautiful and not.
But that also just highlights though, like, even if you're not saying out loud, your negative thoughts, those count. So say nice things to yourself. And when you say bad things, stop yourself and be like, is that true? And here's some better words to say.
Yeah. Is that true? It's sometimes we realized we didn't talk about my mom last episode. So now we're going to talk about her incessantly this one. You're welcome, Joan Kennedy. And now I forgot what I was going to say. Gosh dang it. It'll come back to me later.
About saying nice things to yourself in your head and affirmation.
Oh, so if she even started to say anything, she'd go, oh, red flag, red flag.
I think I shared with you when my bad thoughts are especially bad, or like it's probably cyclical as a woman, you just have certain weeks where they're worse. I've named them Chad, and I just like, shut up, Chad, like F you. Like, it's not me saying it, it's this douche nozzle in my brain, and I get to argue with him instead, and then it's just more fun.
So I did want to talk a little bit. We already talked a little bit about like with my mom being ill, but vitality and chronic illness. So energy, the energetics of that. Um, I agree with you, Tracy. I do not think that energy is finite. Human Humans' ability to feel energetic is finite. However, I feel that some people with chronic illnesses would disagree.
It's such a, like I said, like it's mind, body, soul. And so chronic illness creates a massive imbalance, right? And
Right.
it's going to be that
Yes.
much harder. It's a bigger hurdle. And it's really hard. Like let's say you're spiritually disconnected, you're not going to feel or see the negative aspects of that or the detriments in your day to day the same way you will if you had a foot amputated or if you have chronic pain or if suddenly uh, you get Parkinson's, right? Like there's some things that like drastically change our lifespan and what we're able to do and what we used to do, and it puts up roadblocks, and so that impacts our energy and how we already create and generate it, right? Like it changes it. You no longer get to live in the strength of what you've been doing for X amount of years until you were hit with chronic illness or chronic
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah. So is that so so there's a huge imbalance, but you're still in the mindset that there are ways through that.
I, you know, it's hard. So I suffer from a cyclical chronic pain issue. So every so many days of a month, I get this issue with my arm and my neck, and it's completely debilitating when it happens, especially
Mhm.
because although I know how cyclical it is, surprises me every month. I'm always like, oh, I thought I had one more day, or oh, it's this week already, or and so I completely empathize with people who go through that or go through it long term, because when it hits me, I sink into it, and that's how I get through it. Is I allow myself 3 days, right? And then at the end of those 3 days, I kind of do like you did with like, is this how I want to live? But for me to generate that energy or to be able to use or capitalize the energy I do have in those moments, I have to give up other things, right? Like I do
Mhm.
have to, like your mom, have a cup,
Yeah.
recognize I only have so much. However, there have been many times where I have rallied, right? Where there have been things at work where I'm really needed and I feel needed, not pressured, but like, hey, I'm going to go and do this. And I get through it, right? Like, and I do generate that energy. And sometimes I, I'm stealing from tomorrow, right? And I don't know it at the time. And other times it's absolutely no exchange in play. And so why my body is doing that, I don't know. But there's definitely a mindset piece. But with chronic pain for me, I've been doing this for 12 years. I'm tired of generating my energy, right? Like
Yeah.
I like the days when I just wake up bright and shiny and my mood is great and my energy is great and life seems to work. Um, but I don't think that that's actually how it goes. I don't think that everybody that, uh, we all generate our energy differently. We all maintain it differently. Different things drain different people, right? We're all
Mhm.
affected differently. And so I'm still trying to figure out on this journey what is best for me in those days, and then what is best for me the days leading up to it. Like it's kind of like the cycles of the moon. Like I've been tracking things enough that I know if I do these things the week ahead of time, life is easier for me, energy is easier to come by, right? And so it's not even just like preparing my home or like getting ahead on tasks, but it's diet, it's fitness, there's stuff
Yeah.
I can do that kind of,
It's like you're front loading.
yes, that I don't have to do it all 4 weeks, but if I do it X amount of days beforehand, I have a different experience the week of.
Okay.
But that's going to be different from somebody that has cancer, right? Like somebody
Right. Or someone who has, it's not like, okay, I know that it's for this set amount of time, and then I have 3 weeks
yeah,
off.
there when you look at, chronic illness, I mean, I don't think chronic is necessarily the right term, but when you have a mental illness, when you have depression,
Mhm.
going out for a run every day may help, right? Like exercising, they do show like it increases all the happy hormones. But you're depressed, right? Like you have
it's the last thing you want to do. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but like there's something wrong, that going for a run and eating good food isn't enough. Like there's something there that's creating this roadblock for you, right? And so I do feel like sometimes the way that you make sure that you can generate in times of chronic illness is taking medication, seeking counseling, taking a break. I can't be as ambitious those weeks of the month, right? Like I have to understand my limits. And like I said, I give some stuff up, but then there's also times like really cool stuff is going to happen and I don't want to miss it. And you bet I'm there. And so I don't know. I don't know if maybe I just contradicted everything else I just said in this episode.
No, I don't think you did, because I think that it's not black and white, obviously, and it's nuanced. And like you said, different things energize different people. And in fact, at one point you were talking about being with people energizes you, but not always, because some people drain you. So
I'm an introvert.
I know. I was going to say that. I'm like, you're an introvert.
I took a class on career counseling once, and it was a Friday night, Saturday morning class. So I spent, we'd spend 5 hours together, including dinner on a Friday night, go home at 10 or 11, go to bed, wake up, go to class for 4 or 5 hours, and then sometimes maybe even do lunch together, right? And I talk a lot in class. I was always the one that rose my hand, especially if nobody else did. I engaged with others. I was the one being like, let's do dinner together. Let's do, like on all this. And so when we took the Myers-Briggs, the professor was like, Tracy, you broke the scale on introversion. Did you do it right? Did you understand the question?
Did you understand the question?
And I looked at my table mates and him, and I said, you guys, from Saturday noon to Friday at 5, I don't talk to anybody. Like I give it all I got because I love you guys and I love this topic and I love what we're doing here in class. And it energizes and it excites me. And then Sunday through Thursday, I'm building it up to do it again, right? And so for me, that was the trade-off. Like, I will give it all I got these 10 hours with these people because I'm getting so much in return. But eventually I would have to turn more inward and be like, no more people, right? Like,
so I totally get that, because I feel like I'm somewhat the same, not quite, because I am actually considered an extrovert, but it's super, they're very close to each other.
Yeah, it's a scale.
But in the moment, if with the right people, completely energized by the people around me, completely energized and can feel energized for a while, even after. And then all of a sudden it's like, and now I will go to sleep and don't talk to me in the morning. Like I wake up in the morning and it's like, no, I don't need to talk to anyone right now.
Not conversely necessary, but so I accepted my current position after interviewing with the manager. Not like the job seemed interesting, but it really wasn't different work, different topic, same work, right?
Yeah.
And so why make that change? Why do that? Why leave my friends, right? This manager, I was so excited to work for him, right? Like he just brings it with him. His number one skill is woo, but he's also really genuine because his number 2 skill, I believe, is empathy or strength. And so I can be doing a task I absolutely hate, dragging my feet on, and call him for 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden, this is the best task in the world. And I get through it and it's an amazing work. And I didn't.
So he helps you sort of get energized for the thing, right? Yeah. He energizes the thing
and
for you.
It's really specific. Hey, can we work on this document together? And other times it's just a quick touch base about our division overall. And I'm passionate about it again because he is so passionate about it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, we talk about all the time, like, we can't both stay in our current positions forever just because we like the other person, right? So like if he goes on to bigger and better things, I know he will find a way to take me with him someday. And it's that I don't want him to stay just because of me, because I might find a better position somewhere someday, right? But at the same time, whenever either of us are considering those opportunities that come to us, we talk to the other one because we understand what a huge impact it would have, because I think we both generate that excitement for each other on this topic.
Yeah. That's so interesting. And now I'm just trying to think about like there are people in my life who get me energized about a topic. Like I definitely think that obviously you get me energized like when we meet and
Oh, you too. Yeah.
right. So we get super excited about like the topics and what we're doing. And like there's just so much energy. I feel like you can feel the energy around it. But I bet there's people who aren't energized by other people. But
Or by us.
or by us, they're like, oh, they're so draining. I'm drained after this episode. But I do think that there are some just like normal, typical things for a person who is at a fairly, like here's your baseline, you don't have a chronic illness, like
Life
but
is good, not super
yeah, or
stressful.
maybe life isn't good, but you're like it could be good and maybe I could have more energy. Like I think we've got a pretty good list of
Oh
some
yeah, what do you
things
got?
that you
Hit
could
me.
do. Yeah,
What
well,
has, because it's about what's worked for you. So what has worked for you?
it is about what's worked for me. So I'm just going to start right off. I have done like specific sort of subtle energy things. I've grounded myself, like visualized myself grounding into the earth and opening myself up to the life force and visualizing the life force in myself. So I've done like that subtle energy chakra life force things, but also sometimes we forget to breathe. And I know that sounds funny, but right now, just take a
Everybody
deep
just take a
breath.
deep breath right now.
Exactly.
One,
And
two,
all of a
three,
sudden
breathe
you're like,
in.
oh my gosh, what was I doing that whole time?
Yep.
And something that I just learned, even though I think maybe I learned it before, if you can exhale longer than your inhale, even just a few times, that can really help
And
your
like
energy level.
audibly exhale the
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So then going outside barefoot on the earth, earthing, grounding, different kind of grounding. So being in nature, drink your water. You'd be surprised if you're like tired a lot, maybe look at how much you're drinking water.
Or look at how you're drinking. So if you are drinking
Oh,
8 cups of water, but every time you drink your cup, you're chugging it, you're not doing it right. It's just going to go right through your body, right? Like you need to be taking consistent sips throughout the day, drinking a whole bunch when you wake up to make up for what you've lost and the
yeah.
fact that you weren't drinking, right? Like there's also an art to hydrating, right? And there's water in everything, right? Like there's water in tea, there's water in coffee. The how it dehydrates you, completely negligible. The point is to drink, right? To hydrate yourself.
Yeah. And so for me, I thought I was drinking enough until I actually started tallying how much I was drinking. I started to document it. And so I've got a little dry erase board, magnetic one on the refrigerator, and I just do a hash mark for every glass of water. And
I have certain projects I work on where I put a timer on to make sure that I get up and walk around. And then within that walking
nice.
around, I also make sure I'm taking time to drink water because I can forget. I can hyper focus and for 3 hours
Yeah.
not drink anything and then feel like crap, right? Headaches,
Well, and
tired.
so here's the thing, like that's a perfect thing for energy to only do a task, like a really like
Focus.
head down task for a certain amount of time, right? And then get up, walk and hydrate. I love that because walking was my second one.
There you go.
I mean, not second, but after hydrate. Meditation sometimes can so energize me and I can just get up and be ready to go with the rest of my day. And then other times it kind of makes me sleepy. If it makes me sleepy, I do think I'm like, am I tired? Do I need to take a nap? And then I just take a nap. And then maybe it's just like a 20-minute nap and then I feel energized.
But meditation can also be like sleep or some of these things where you're talking about you're front loading it. So I know I feel better when I incorporate meditation into my day, not necessarily because I see immediate reactions like caffeine, but because of what it's building over time, right?
Right.
The act of what I'm doing and what it does for your system,
Yeah.
that's helping me create energy overall or sustain and
Yes.
maintain energy.
Yeah, I think it is that sort of front loading, like you just said. And then, of course, your nighttime sleep, like that can affect your energy so much. And I know that we've all had some problems with that lately. I use, like, if I do not drink coffee after the morning, right? So I have my 2 or 3 cups of coffee in the morning. So in the afternoon, if I have a little bit of a slump, I got my essential oils and peppermint.
Take a hit of peppermint.
Oh
For
my
me, it's
gosh.
lime.
All I have to do is just be like, and so I just wanted to share too. I have this necklace on. If you're watching on YouTube, it is a personal diffuser necklace. So it's got a little fuzz ball in it that I put a drop of peppermint on, and then there you have it. Like that is,
Or like I used to walk by your office when we worked at the same location, and I would pop in and be like, "Oh God, I love that. What is that?" And every time you'd be like, "Tracy, it's the same thing." And it was always like,
slime.
so citrus is also something that's really awakening, right?
Well,
Lemon,
it's
orange,
awakening and uplifting, right?
very
It's gonna,
uplifting.
yes. So citrus oils, so essential oils, friends can really raise your
Connection. Yeah.
energy, but make sure, like Tracy said, yep, spending time with some people can raise it, and then other people you're just like, oh. Upbeat music.
Oh, music, have you ever been in a bad mood and played your angry playlist and then stayed in that bad mood? Like it felt good in the moment, but it didn't really help. Um,
Yeah.
and so I really feel like music has the ability not only to influence emotions, but to create and generate energy, right? And it can be frantic
Yes.
energy, it can be sad energy, right? Like
Yeah.
it can
And
keep you in that zone.
the thing with energy is that it's just not your energy. It's like you change the energetics of your space. So because your house can your where you live can have energy as well. Different episode. Um, Dancing. I love it. I remember, I've never forgotten this. You talked, yes. And what do the hands above your, like, what does that do again?
So dancing with your heads over your head, like your arms raised all the way up for about 3 minutes can generate energy and change your mood. So if
Yeah.
you're feeling really down, depressed, maybe just flat and neutral, pick a song. I like things with a lot of drums to it, really like tribal primal music
Yeah.
kind of a
Yeah.
thing. I don't remember why, but whenever I do it, it works, right? And even if it's psychosomatic, like I'm doing it because my yoga teacher told me about it or something like that, it's still working. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Who cares
But
why
there
if
is
it's
there is
working?
actually, I don't remember the connection, but it's something about how it gets your blood moving and your
Yeah.
circulation going, and it's the hands up. And then also I feel like, when you think about spirituality and religion, how many people put their hands up to the sky
Oh, you're right.
praying or
Yes.
in celebration, or like there's so
Yes.
many things we do around our mood and our energy that involve just a natural reaction of hands and arms up,
Yes. You're right.
that why not like take that and do it on purpose as part of your day.
Yes. I love it. What you eat. So try to eat whole foods, veggies, fruit, just whole things, not so many processed things. A simple stretch, simple yoga, not so simple. That would help your energy.
Yeah.
Laughing. Uh, I'm sorry. Just find a some cute dog or cat video and just laugh. Just laugh. And then honestly, if you just start something like you're that potential energy on the couch. I always think of you saying, okay, 1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, go. We're just gonna do it. 1, 2, 3, go.
And
Go, go,
then
go.
you start to do it. Another scientific law, bodies in motion stay in motion, right? So the minute you start doing something, you typically will like continue doing something. Like you'll get that energy to do it.
Yeah, whether you're lacking the mental energy, like let's say you have decision fatigue or depression, or if it's physical energy, like you're just feeling tired, like there is something about just doing it for 3 minutes. And then typically once you've done it for 3 minutes, you'll carry on, right? Because you've already started. You just got to do it. Don't worry about where you're starting the process. Just do the thing.
Yeah.
So for me, all of these things you talk about, they work and they work intermittently. But what I have found the greatest indicator of success in maintaining an energy that I need to, create the outcomes in my life I want is routine. Our minds and body crave routine. So as much as you can do the same things at the same time, the same way every day, as much as some people, it doesn't seem fun, it doesn't seem fancy, right? But if you're able to maintain a routine that sets you up for success for the times when you have the other stuff to do, right? Like you're creating the environment to be successful for when you can't do your routine or for when fun things come up. So for me, it is no matter how I feel, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm just going to put my clothes on. I'm going to go for a walk. I don't care what the weather is. I'm going to walk for 10 minutes. I have a certain point. It's almost a mile away that if I get to that stop sign at that church and I still don't want to do it, I'll go home because you know what? I've just done at least 2 miles, right? Like I've just done, if I walk for 10 minutes, decide I don't want to do it, come back, that's 20 minutes. I've done 20 minutes. Maybe I'll do more later, maybe not, right? And so I allow myself that moment, but I have these thresholds, these minimums for, you know what, like, yeah, I do allow processed foods occasionally or, cravings to hit, or yeah, I want donuts today, but there's certain markers I have to hit first, right? Like, so if I am going to have a donut, I have a green juice. Like I allow myself those things that might not maybe be nutritionally stacked as whole foods, but I make sure I'm hitting certain minimums for my micronutrients because I feel better.
Yeah.
And then I also recognize maybe those days that I'm not so great with my diet like that, that the next day I know what to do to fix it, right? Like I know I now need more greens. I need more, brown rice versus white bread or something. So it's little stuff like that. But then it's also understanding like life ebbs and flows. So sometimes meditation feels really, really good. And some days I wake up and I don't want to do it. So when I'm having those, I don't want to do it days, I do allow the occasional day or here or there where I don't go for a walk. I don't do this, right? Like give yourself grace. But I'll do it for a week. And if something still feels like a chore or a task after a week, I need a new thing, right? Like forcing yourself to do the thing because they say it'll work or it used to work can deplete more of your energy than you're actually ever going to generate.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And so it's remembering like maybe this routine worked great for you last year. And if you're doing the same thing and not getting the results you want, shake up the routine, right? Like the important thing is to be intentional with what you're doing and to kind of monitor your gains and your losses, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. I also don't want anyone to think that all I eat are whole foods and veggies and fruit
No,
because
that's okay.
sometimes I eat processed food too. But I do really like the just thinking about the front loading, and I like people thinking about that as well. And the routine, because I realized I'm off my routine ever since I hurt my foot. I am totally off my routine, and it's gotten me. Yeah, it's gotten me off my routine because I can't walk. It was like the meditation was tied to the walk, and now I'm choppier on my meditation as well. So I need to come up with a new routine.
Our mind and body likes routine because when we don't have that routine, it creates this sometimes subconscious, but sometimes right in front of your face, like anxiety, or your just body's just wondering, well, when am I going to get my water? I usually have my water right now. Like, where's my water going to come from?
Yeah.
I'm somebody, not everybody is like this, but my blood sugar is totally influenced by my eating schedule. I grew up in a family that could totally change how they ate in a day for a vacation. Didn't affect anybody's mood. I'm the crabbiest person in the world. It's not that I'm food focused. It's not that I'm starving, but like I need to have like a certain flow of my blood sugar. And I don't have diabetes or anything like that. And it wasn't until my niece was born that my family now recognizes, oh, it's not just Tracy, right? Like there is, like when you look at a 2-year-old a little bit more objectively than, a 15-year-old complaining at you,
Yeah.
You're able to see like, oh, wow, like this really impacts her day when she doesn't get, a snack at this time. But some people
Yeah.
just aren't going to be affected by that. So maintaining a routine with your meal plan might not work for you. Some people do great with just a meal a day, right? Some people need a gallon of water and swear it saved their life. And other people are just like, I drink when I'm thirsty and I'm fine. Right. So it's about understanding your personal needs.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you got to think about it. I was trying to think of if there's anything you mentioned or didn't mention that I do. I think the one thing with routine and front loading that keeps coming to mind is when Will Smith was preparing to play Muhammad Ali, the boxer in the movie Ali. I'll never forget this quote because he had to get in amazing shape for it, right? Or like
Right.
everybody was talking about his physique, like and how much he trained. And they're like, well, how did you do it? And he's like, well, if you stay ready, you never have to get ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so it's kind of that idea of I want to create that baseline, that groundwork for a really good day, for that capacity to generate energy when I need it, or to not feel like I've tapped into tomorrow when I go to bed. And what does that look like? And like for me, now that we're working from home permanently, I've noticed it's really affected my energy, my emotional health, my social health. Like as an introvert, I hated going into the office because I didn't always get to control when people popped in to talk to me, right? And I wanted to be polite, but I sat near the front door, or I was in a role where I am meant to converse with people and interact as they come through, not be standoffish. It was part of my job to engage and find out information, share information, all that kind of stuff. And so, but then as an introvert, I would come home and I wouldn't hang out with anybody after work, right? Or I would do stuff after work because I already know I'm going to be depleted anyways. Like, let's just go do fun things with people. And then Friday through Sunday, I'd be a homebody, right? I'd Netflix and chill
Right.
by myself.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm working from home all the time, and the majority of both my social and work interactions are via text, I'm like, oh, I need this, right? So now I look at my day and I'm like, I'm not going to talk to anybody today. So then I schedule something with a friend. I check in with my boss. I check in with my accountability partner. Like I look at my day and I'm like, are you actually going to be okay if you don't speak to someone? Like, is this a day where you want to yourself to get stuff done? Or is this going to impact your energy and your mental health later on? And so you
Yeah.
have to know yourself. And some people, that's really hard to tap into.
Yeah. And we've talked about that about a billion times as well, about just like you need to do some reflection to really, what is it that you need? Who are you? What do you want? What do you need? What raises your energy? What depletes it? What goals do you have? What, I mean, the list goes on, right?
It's that being intentional with your life starts with being intentional
Exactly.
with your energy. So whether you believe you can generate it or you have a finite amount,
Mm-hmm.
you still want to be intentional so that you can
Yeah.
use it or create it appropriately.
Right. And I think that starting to be intentional with your life starts, and your energy starts with being intentional with your day. And you can start at any time, any day, to be intentional with your day. So I guess, I mean, I loved the whole idea about like that whole potential, right? Your potential energy. Okay. So just remember, you are potential energy, whether you're, laying on the couch or you haven't gotten up yet, your potential energy. And how are you going to change that energy, transform it from potential energy to kinetic energy, to actually doing something or feeling something that you want to feel? And that you have some control over your energy and what goes into creating your energy,
At the
right?
very least, you can control your attitude towards your energy.
You can control your attitude towards your
The
energy.
when
So,
I'm in one of, I call it my angry arm days. There's a distinct difference, like allowing myself those times, like I just have to stay in bed, ignore the world and get through it. But my experience varies greatly by my thoughts that I have towards what's going on, and whether or not I'm mad about
yes,
it, whether or not I'm in flow with it, or whether or not I'm optimistic about it ending, right?
yes,
And then that
yes.
conversely it has a potential to impact the energy.
It does.
So
So the universe,
yeah, I was just gonna ask, what does the universe have to say?
whew, the universe had a lot to say. The universe had a lot to say. So I
Did it tell you
first,
the story?
yes, I first shuffled the cards, and the first one I got was the Four of Swords. So this is a person laying on a, like I mean, they could be dead. And there's one sword underneath them, three above them. But then if you look up in the
stained glass.
Yeah, I was going to say which corner it was, and then I couldn't figure out my right or their right. The stained glass, that is like the blessing that is there. So I feel like with this card, here's the story. So once upon a time, there was, let's say, Ani, who was just very depleted with their energy and maybe needed to rest, but also the glass reminded them that their potential energy. And then they had an idea. The next card that popped out was the Ace of Swords. We've had this card before.
They took that sword from under them, and
they had this idea that, hey, I could do this thing, and it seemed like a really good idea, and they could maybe feel good, about their life and what they're doing, and maybe help other people. It was a good idea. It could work well. So they set off on their journey as the Knight of Swords. And as they set off, not only did they create energy, but they exuded energy around them and to other people. And they actually did create many things, but it was almost like maybe it was too much energy, and maybe now they needed to just slow down a little bit, and they needed to rely on their strength to see them through. And to the lion was there to remind the person that, I don't know, I've lost it.
Here, I'll fill it in. So the strength card isn't just about walking with the lion. The woman that's with the lion, they say, has tamed the beast.
The woman has tamed the beast. I like that. Yes.
So the three cards prior to this were all swords, which are air cards, which relate to mental energy.
Yes.
And so this to me is about taming your thoughts in order to control or influence your energy.
Thank you, Tracy, for wrapping that up.
I mean, it's a beautiful story. I love that journey.
No, I love it that you tame your thoughts to control your energy. I love that.
Yeah. Well, what are we going to talk about next time?
Yeah, it's time.
Tamed your energy. What can we do with it?
Well, guess what, friends? It's time to revisit our dreams, as in our goals, which supposedly we've had our mid-year check-in with ourselves. Maybe we've revised our goals. Maybe we've renewed our commitment to our goals. Maybe we
have a new dream.
Maybe we have a new dream. Maybe we haven't done jack crap and need to think about it. But I hope y'all join us for the conversation on what we're doing with our goals, and maybe this second half of the year, thinking about our dreams and goals. So looking forward to that.
I love it. Well, if this episode spoke to your soul, please share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube at The Brightly Podcast, or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com. And I just checked it an hour ago. You guys need to email us more.
Hey, we hope you have a bright and beautiful day.
Thanks.
Bye.